This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Is this Halloween?
It will be close to... It'll be within 2 days of Halloween.
Okay, well, happy Halloween, folks.
We're doing another Halloween episode. And y'all, when we say happy Halloween, it does not matter if you are in quarantine. It is a goddamn Sunday. Put on your Halloween costume and celebrate. Or just wear your Halloween costume. Wear something. Do something not normal. Just enjoy it. Watch a Halloween movie. Buy a ton of Halloween candy and binge it. That'll make you feel better.
Put on that inflatable T.H.E costume and go pole dancing. I don't care.
Yes! Oh my god, send us videos of you in inflatable T-Rex costumes. 10 out of 10.
So, today we're we're looking at Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yes!
Now, I knew going into Frankenstein that you were very familiar with them. How familiar are you with them?
I have read Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay,
the what is it? The strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Something like that. The something case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I've seen representations of Jekyll and Hyde in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movies. And I've done a little bit of kind of... Jekyll and Hyde are kind of it's a recurring kind of character archetype of the bipolar, kind of good and evil, two personalities. You know, that's how most people assume Geminis are, so I have more than a passing familiarity with it.
All right, let me go ahead and...
Clicky, clicky. God, the sound of my keyboard makes all of my OCD happy.
We'll start with Henry Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, it's like Shotokan, right? Okay, it's not Shotokan, but it's like young man.
Yeah, a young man.
Yeah, young man. Yeah. Ooh, blood.
He has an assassin in the berserker form.
Okay.
And there we go.
Was that a... Why are his pants down?
Why
is he wearing tighty whities?
Why not?
Why though? You say why not like this is a natural... like this is a normal form of something, and that is not the case. This is, in fact, the weirdest thing.
Let me see if I can find...
Oh, I love that fan art. 10 out of 10.
There we go. You can see them both together there.
Oh, okay, so I assume the Hyde half is the berserker.
Yeah.
And Jekyll is the assassin.
There should be a separate... Maybe I can't find it here. Yeah, I can't find it here.
You can Google it. Open
up
another tab.
I'm not worried about the April Fools of Mr. Hyde that much.
What was it? Is that a ghost?
No, so this is from the opening movie of FGO. It like cuts them and a little more high depth image appears of him in the FGO OP.
Ah, okay.
So
the fucking...
Looking for the April Fools?
There we go. No, I wanted to be able to see the whole picture.
We'll leave this up since this has both of them. Normally I'd leave the April Fools up, but this got both of them.
Yeah, the bad boy and the good boy.
Yeah.
For every discerning hot guy character lover.
So, since I brought this up in Frankenstein to help clear things up a bit, once again this is a case of this guy actually existed, and the author heard it down the grapevine. It's another one of those fake characters. They do that a few times.
Okay, so that's how it's set up in Fate?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't think there's an actual...
No.
Yeah, I was going to say...
Although it could very easily be based on a person.
I'm sure, yeah.
This is not something you can't see.
Fucking Victorian England mad scientists basically just equal one another. I mean, the British were a wacky people during that time period in their history. They ate mummies for medicine. Everyone remember that.
We'll start with Dr. Henry Jekyll here. Dr. Henry Jekyll, and you might find this somewhat fun, I think. This version of Dr. Henry Jekyll, I don't know how it stacks up compared to the book, was basically a doctor of at least 3 or 4 things. Amongst them, medicine, civil law, and legal theory.
Interesting. That is actually quite interesting.
At a certain point in his career, Dr. Henry Jekyll was fairly well esteemed as far as he goes in Fate. And at a certain point, he began to not necessarily like that, because he became obsessed with the concept of evil and good thanks to some experience he had dealing with a mastermind or hearing about the mastermind of a criminal world and the detective that opposed him.
Yes.
Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty.
Well, I mean, not exactly, but sure.
Because it is implied, at least kind of, that Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty also existed, but there's also conflicting evidence to that, at least with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
But because of this, Dr. Jekyll gained an obsession with evil and tried to cure himself of that evil. To my knowledge, it does actually match the books a little bit.
Yeah. So in the books, obviously, he's like 50-something, and he's been trying to repress evil urges all his life. He's trying to create, like, a serum that'll repress his evil urges, you know? And I would like to clarify here that when they talk about evil urges in the book, they're not very specific. And if you actually look at the kind of opinion of the time period and what the other characters think, that typically just means that they're gay. Like, he engaged in buggery or something like that. Like, fucking the Victorians were absolutely they thought that, like, the idea of, like, sexual freedom and expressing yourself in a way that was not mandatory missionary between a man and a wife who are already married was literally the devil incarnate. I mean, they thought that shit was worse than drugs.
Obviously, that kind of messaging would not go over well in a modern piece of fiction.
No. And in fact, it's interesting that when he transforms into Hyde in the books, he's actually violent rather than just like sexual or something like that.
As far as fate goes, Mr. Hyde was just a serial killer.
Yeah. He gets thrills out of the kills.
And obviously, Dr. Jekyll was completely horrified by this, and eventually he killed himself to prevent Mr. Hyde from murdering more people, as you do.
Yes, as one does, obviously.
This is where things get kind of weird. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are in two different Fate works. Fate Grand Order, that's where the assassin variant comes from, and another work called Fate Prototype Fragments of something. It's a subtitle.
Oh, also
Fragments of Sky Silver.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're right that there's the oh God, what's the word? The guy trying to find him as well, the inspector.
I don't believe it's ever stated if that inspector was Sherlock Holmes.
No,
or not.
He has a name.
No, in the book, yeah, and definitely in the book, it's a different person.
Yeah. In the book, it's a different person.
As far as fate goes, I don't think they elaborate on that too much.
Mm-hmm. I don't suppose they talk about, like, his friend or the person he murdered or the butler or anything.
No, unfortunately, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a character that either we don't have much on or it's been a little bit too focused into Japan.
Okay.
Because the white novel he's in, Fate Prototype Fragments of Sky Silver, is Japan exclusive, rather unfortunately, and we have no sort of adaptation for that. So, yo-ho, yar fiddly dee.
And it's such a... Okay, I know that the Fate Dojin community is strong, and I want to be very clear that when he's described in the book as Mr. Hyde, he is monstrous. You know, this is not monstrous. This is hot. I'd tap.
Oh, this is from the interpretation where he doesn't change he doesn't become a monster. He just changes in temperament and maybe slightly deforms himself.
Yeah, he gets a lot stronger in the book was one of the things.
He gets stronger here too, but more in the I just pump myself full of steroids kind of way, adrenaline.
Yeah. I mean, basically, because he beats a man to death with his bare hands in the books.
And that's generally how he functions as a servant too. He's, as an assassin, so the way his noble phantasm works in FGO is, as an assassin, he either eats or injects himself with something, I forget which one it was, and becomes the berserker form. But as the assassin, he's just got a knife. He's a doctor.
Okay.
He knows where to cut someone.
Yeah.
And as a berserker, he's just him, but stronger and a lot less reserved.
That makes sense.
And that's really his noble phantasm. Mr. Hyde is pretty horrifically strong.
Is there a reason why there's blood all over his shirt?
He just got out of being Mr. Hyde.
Okay. Just wondering if there was... Is there a reason why his pants are down?
Rio.
What?
The artist's name.
Is there a reason why he's in tidy whities, or is that just the artist's name too?
Just the artist. There's no good reasoning for this. I don't have some of these. I'll have explanations for actually, but
okay. Look, you know, some people are into wedding gear underwear, but I'm not one of them, so I don't know why.
That said, he's summonable as a berserker, and it's not what you would think. It's not just summoning straight Mr. Hyde.
Okay.
It's still summoning Jekyll.
Okay.
But when so in the assassin form, he has a little bit of Hyde in him, so that's why he's can fight at all, or he's willing to fight at all. As a berserker, he's just that little bit more Hyde. But it's enough Hyde to where when he uses his noble phantasm, he does something kind of weird that
Well, what's his noble phantasm?
It's called dangerous game, but it's again the injection or the eating.
I'm sorry, that just makes me think of the most dangerous
That's
game.
what I thought of too, but I don't think it's related.
No, I'm sure it's not, but I mean, unless part of it... Actually, as an assassin, his goal is to hunt down people and kill them.
Kinda, but there's no real justification for why he's an assassin. The only reason he's an assassin is because his presence concealment is one of his special abilities as Dr. Jekyll, where you can't tell he's a servant until he becomes Mr. Hyde. So that qualifies him for assassin. But it's not like he's hunting down and killing people.
Okay, speaking of, everyone go read A Most Dangerous Game. It is genuinely amazing.
As a berserker, when he does that, it's slightly different. Because Hyde can just kind of come out as a berserker. Instead, when he does Dangerous Game, he becomes what I can only describe as a werewolf.
Huh.
Now, I don't know exactly why this was. If I had to theory, and I did do a tiny bit of research on this, it might be the similarities in the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing to the werewolf mythology.
Yeah, I mean, becoming something uncontrollable and monstrous.
Yeah, and having urges that come out.
Violent urges, usually to maul, kill, and eat.
Wake up and you find blood on your shirt because you killed someone or ate someone's pigs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing that might be in reference to, and this is a little bit more far-fetched, is apparently there is a 1972 horror film called, a Spanish 1972 horror film called Dr. Jekyll and the Werewolf, in which he helps a werewolf by trying the science used for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Instead, it made the werewolf worse, as you would expect.
Yeah, that seems like a bad premise for a movie, but okay.
Yeah, that is the only other connection to a werewolf I can find with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but that's what they did.
You know what? Knowing Japan and knowing the authors of Fate, that could 100% be the possibility.
It's possible, because I don't know how popular that horror film was, but hey, you never know.
Now, the question that everyone has been waiting for and is on all of our minds, does this man have a sexy swimsuit version? Or a butler's uniform?
So that's the unfortunate part, is the men get swimsuits a lot rarer than the women.
Okay.
And the swimsuits are not straight up alternate servants like the women are. They tend to just be alternate outfits.
Okay, what about a butler's uniform?
Unless he's got one from the CEs. Let me take a look at his CEs here.
I know Cascu has a butler's...
This is a bunch of Rio art.
Yeah.
There he is. There's him in a rock band.
You know what? Fate has so many...
There's probably the closest you'll get to Butler.
I'm fine with that. Hot high school student.
Yeah. I don't think we have any more. Yeah, no, we don't have any more. We got Just Hyde.
Ah, nice.
Concept art.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that's kind of it for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He doesn't have nearly as much, at least not as much translated. I probably could find more lore on him if I took the time to read the novel that he was in. But I didn't, because I don't speak Japanese and I haven't gone through every untranslated work yet.
Nihongo nani da fuck?
Yeah. I can read a little bit, but not enough to read a book.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. But, I mean, I'm 10 out of 10. I actually like this interpretation. I like the whole Dr. Jekyll as the assassin and Mr. Hyde as the berserker. And I mean, Jekyll and Hyde is one of my favorite stories. Not necessarily just in the story itself, but in the fact that Jekyll and Hyde is essentially common cultural knowledge. Like, Jekyll and Hyde have literally just become a phrase that refers to two sides of an issue or two sides of someone.
Well,
it's such a massive part of our lexicon in the English-speaking world.
It's a character archetype that's seen a lot in fiction. I mean, the Hulk.
Yeah.
The Hulk is just Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually like this character archetype a lot because I think it can go a lot of different ways because you don't have to go evil Mr. Hyde, you know? It could be evil Jekyll, good Hyde. You could really switch it up, you know? And have it a lot of different ways personality-wise, which means you can write stories a lot of different ways. I mean, hell, you could even have a monster character who's smart and forms a serum to turn himself into human temporarily just so he can experience the human world. Man, Fran could have really used that.
I mean, just overclock her a little bit. So, I could be misremembering here, but I believe Dr. Jekyll was also, as far as fate is concerned, an acquaintance of Victor Frankenstein, to tie things back to our Fran episode.
That's actually pretty cool in universe lore.
Like, the same way that he was an acquaintance to Sherlock Holmes and knew about James Moriarty, there's just kind of in fate lore this sort of underground society of London, I think.
Yeah, that seems about right, because, like, technically they shouldn't all be together. Oh, do they, in perchance, also are acquainted with Captain Nemo?
Captain Nemo's fascinating. I think Captain Nemo actually is only literary in fate, but I could be wrong. We'll get to that when we get to that, I think.
Okay, because in the movie The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Jekyll and Hyde and Captain Nemo are all kind of in the same movie, and it's
yes, I am aware.
fun to watch.
I've heard about that recently.
Well, it's not a great movie, and a lot of people don't like...
I've heard it's a better graphic novel.
Yeah, it's better as a graphic novel, but I haven't read the graphic novel. I've just seen the movie, and honestly, Captain Nemo is one of my favorite characters in literature recently. But I can't deny how classic stories like, you know, Frankenstein and Jekyll and Hyde are. I mean, let's put it this way. This kind of has transformed our modern day kind of horror scene in terms of horror literature and especially movies, because this is incredibly common in movies.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. You know, eventually we got to come up with an actual outro for these damn things.
We will eventually, but for now, I'm going to go look up some dojins, so you do you, boo.